Adrian Cole had stood across from armed rivals, federal prosecutors, and men who would have gladly seen him buried. Nothing in this world had ever made him hesitate. Until one quiet afternoon in Central Park, when a little boy left, and Adrian heard his own laughter in it. He froze. The boy had his rare green eyes, the same crooked dimple that appeared only when he grinned. Beside him, a little girl clutched a small doll, her curls bouncing as she ran after him. Adrian's pulse quickened, a strange, almost unbearable mix of disbelief and recognition settling in his chest. He scanned the woman pushing the stroller. She moved with purpose, yet there was something in the way she flinched that told him she wanted to disappear, melt into the crowd. The sunlight caught her hair, auburn with streaks of chestnut, and her eyes, wide with fear, met his. Elena Hayes. It had been 3 years since that night, a single night at the Velvet Ember that had changed both of their lives forever. She had vanished without a trace, leaving nothing behind except a memory Adrian had buried deep, along with a gnawing sense of unfinished business. Now she was here, in the middle of Central Park, with 2 children, and suddenly the past clawed its way back into the present. Adrian's breath hitched as recognition surged. The children were his. Every line of their faces mirrored him, the shape of their eyes, the tilt of their smiles, the stubborn set of their chins. And in that instant, all the wealth, power, and control in his life felt meaningless compared to the undeniable truth standing before him. Elena's hands trembled as she gripped the stroller. Her lips parted, a wordless panic that made her small frame seem even smaller in the crowded park. She turned abruptly, trying to pull the children away, but Adrian was faster. His voice, low and commanding, broke through her fear. "Wait." She froze. The children clutched her skirts instinctively. "Whose kids are these?" His words were steady, controlled, but inside something wild churned, disbelief, fear, and a growing inexplicable tenderness. Elena swallowed hard, her eyes darting from him to the children, then back. After a long pause, she whispered the truth. They're yours." For a heartbeat, the world tilted. Adrian's mind raced, trying to absorb what she had just admitted. His children, his blood. The thought was almost surreal, a dream he hadn't dared imagine. "Then we need to talk. Now," he said, voice softer, almost human, almost gentle. He extended a hand, not in threat, but in silent promise. Elena hesitated. The children looked up at her with wide, trusting eyes, and she knew she had no choice. Slowly she nodded, allowing him to guide them, cautiously, carefully, toward the quiet of his penthouse. The elevator ride was tense. Silence stretched between them, thick and heavy, as if the past itself was pressing in. Adrian watched Elena, noting the way she moved, the wary tilt of her head, the small sighs she tried to hide. There was no anger, no judgment in her gaze, only the fierce instinct of a mother protecting her children. As the door to his penthouse opened, the city's skyline framed them, a stark contrast to the intimate storm brewing inside. Adrian stepped forward, his eyes never leaving hers. "I need to know everything," he said quietly, almost assured, "from the beginning." Elena took a deep breath. She glanced down at Liam and Lucy, who had already begun exploring the new space with curious eyes. And in that small moment, Adrian realized the enormity of what he'd missed. 3 years of laughter, tears, and milestones that had been his by right. He closed the door behind them, shutting out the bustling city, and for the first time in his life, Adrian Cole felt completely powerless. Because some things, like the truth, like family, like the past, couldn't be controlled. And he was about to face them all. Have you ever had the past catch up to you in the most unexpected way? Watch as one man discovers the family he never knew he had. The penthouse felt impossibly quiet. The city buzzed far below, unaware that inside these walls, a past long buried was clawing its way to the surface. Adrian Cole sat on the edge of the leather sofa, his piercing green eyes fixed on Elena. The twins played quietly in the corner, unaware of the storm swirling between their parents. Elena took a deep breath, her hands tightening around the edge of her coat. "You need to know everything," she said softly, voice trembling, "so you understand why I left and why I've kept them all this time." Adrian nodded, leaning forward. He didn't interrupt. For once, he was willing to listen. "I was orphaned when I was 5, she began, her voice steady but fragile. Foster homes were supposed to be safe, but they weren't. I ran away when I was 17. The streets, they teach you lessons no one survives without scars." She swallowed hard. "I got a job at the Velvet Ember as a waitress. That's how I met you." Adrian's jaw tightened, memories of that night surfacing, unbidden. He remembered the way she moved through the restaurant, cautious yet unafraid, how he had instinctively protected her twice from men who would have hurt her, how, on his birthday night, she had shared her loneliness, her quiet desperation, and they had crossed a line neither of them had expected. "I got pregnant shortly after," Elena continued, her eyes glistening. "I didn't know how to tell you, and then I saw things that scared me." She hesitated, biting her lip. "I saw you interrogating someone, the intensity, the danger, and your mother, she called me a cheap waitress and pushed you to marry someone else for business. I realized my life with you, with this world, would never be safe. Not for me, not for them." She gestured to Liam and Lucy, who were now holding hands, giggling softly. "I left. I changed my name. I moved to Vermont. Aunt Margaret helped me. I gave birth to them there. I raised them alone, saved every penny, and kept them safe from everything I feared you could bring into their lives." Adrian's chest tightened. Every word she spoke carved deep lines into his heart. 3 years. 3 years of his life gone, and all the while his children had been alive, under someone else's protection. "And now?" Adrian asked, voice low, almost a whisper. "Why come back now?" Elena's gaze fell. "Aunt Margaret passed. Debts. Life caught up. I needed a chance for them to have more than I could give alone, and I hoped I could do it without dragging you into it." For the first time, Adrian noticed the weight in her posture, the years of struggle, of hiding, of carrying burdens alone, the pride, the fear, and the fierce determination that had kept his children alive. And in that moment, the man who controlled empires, who crushed rivals with a glance, felt powerless in the face of her courage. He stood and crossed the room, keeping his distance but unable to look away. "You did what you thought was right. For them. I understand. And I should have known better than to think this world would ever be safe for you." Tears welled in her eyes as she blinked them back. "I never wanted your pity. I never wanted your protection. I just wanted them to live." Adrian's voice dropped, rough with emotion he rarely allowed. "And now I can't let you go. Not like this. Not ever again." The twins ran to him, and for the first time, Adrian Cole held his children. Liam's small hand gripped his finger tightly. Lucy pressed her cheek to his chest. The weight of 3 years lost pressed down on him, a pain sharpened by guilt and longing. Elena watched, her heart torn between relief and fear. She had returned to New York to survive, not to fall back into the dangerous orbit of the man she once loved. Yet, seeing him with their children, seeing the vulnerability that only fatherhood could bring, something inside her softened. The city hummed beyond the windows, oblivious to the reunion of a family fractured by fear, secrets, and the shadows of the past. Adrian finally spoke, his voice a whisper meant only for her. "We'll figure this out, together. I promise you, no more running." Elena nodded, but deep down she knew this was only the beginning. Their past was far from over, and the world Adrian lived in was not forgiving. Yet, for the first time, hope flickered. Fragile, but real. 3 years apart, a dangerous world, and 2 tiny lives kept safe. But can love survive where fear once ruled? The penthouse was quiet except for the soft chatter of the twins, Liam and Lucy, who had now begun exploring every corner of Adrian's luxurious apartment. Their laughter was a sharp contrast to the storm of emotions swirling between Adrian and Elena. He watched them, heart hammering, realizing just how much he had missed. Every step, every smile, every scraped knee he hadn't been there to kiss. Adrian sat Elena down on the sofa, his green eyes serious, but softer than she had ever seen. "We can't leave it to chance anymore," he said. "I need to know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that they're mine." Elena's fingers tightened around her coat. "I've kept them safe for 3 years. That's what mattered. That's all I could do." Adrian nodded, understanding, but his pride and the reality of the world he lived in wouldn't allow anything less. DNA tests were arranged immediately. For once, Adrian wasn't interested in control or dominance, only truth, and the knowledge that his children were alive and well. While waiting for the results, Adrian began introducing himself to Liam and Lucy in ways he had never imagined. He learned their quirks, their favorite foods, the exact way Lucy liked her curls combed. He discovered Liam had his stubborn streak and mischievous smile, the very dimple that had made Elena's confession hit him like a physical blow. Every small interaction deepened the bond he had lost 3 years ago. When the DNA results came back, Adrian didn't just exhale, he nearly dropped the envelope in relief. They were his. Every strand of hair, every inherited trait confirmed it. He felt a surge of protective love unlike anything he had ever experienced. It was no longer a choice. These children were his, and nothing in the world would harm them if he could stop it. But responsibility came with consequences, and Adrian knew that. He had built an empire on fear, and now every decision would affect more than just him. It would affect his family. He turned to Elena, voice steady, almost businesslike, though the weight behind it trembled with emotion. "You and the kids need protection. Legal, financial, everything. The safest way to guarantee that is marriage. I'm not asking for love. Not yet. I'm asking for security." Elena froze, her gaze dropping to the twins playing nearby. Marriage to Adrian Cole wasn't just an alliance. It was a statement, a risk. His world was ruthless, unforgiving, and his mother, Victoria Cole, had already made it clear she despised her. She offered wealth in exchange for her absence, but Elena had refused then, and she would refuse now. I don't know if I can," she whispered. "I'm not sure it's right. You've built a life where danger follows you, and I've raised them for 3 years without it." Adrian stepped closer. "I know," he said quietly, "and I respect everything you've done, but this isn't about us. It's about them. They deserve a family that can protect them, not a mother who has to fight alone." Elena looked at him, studying the rare vulnerability in his eyes. The man who could crush rivals with a glance now stood there, stripped of armor, offering nothing but responsibility. And somewhere between fear, gratitude, and the remnants of her old feelings, she nodded. I'll marry you," she said softly. "For them." Adrian's jaw tightened, a mix of relief and lingering pain crossing his face. It wasn't love, not yet, but it was the beginning of something neither of them could have predicted. The twins glanced up at them, sensing the shift, and Liam gave Adrian a grin that mirrored his own dimpled smile. Lucy clapped her hands, giggling. In that moment, Adrian realized that love wasn't the first step. Responsibility was, And sometimes the right choice was also the hardest. The city beyond the windows thrummed on, unaware that a fragile, fractured family had begun to rebuild in its shadows. But in the quiet of the penthouse, something shifted, a bond formed by truth, protection, and the first tentative threads of trust. Adrian Cole had a new mission now: protect his children, protect Elena, and navigate a dangerous world where old enemies would not wait quietly. And for the first time in his life, power alone couldn't solve the problem. When love isn't an option, responsibility becomes the tie that binds. But in a world of danger, is protection enough? The wedding at City Hall had been quiet, almost painfully understated. No flowers, no fanfare. Just Adrian, Elena, and their twins, Liam and Lucy, standing beneath the sterile lights of the registrar's office. To the world, it was a formality, a marriage of convenience. But behind closed doors, in the sanctuary of their penthouse, the reality of their life together was anything but safe. Adrian knew the whispers had started immediately. Society, his associates, even his enemies noticed the union. His mother, Victoria Cole, had cut all communication, refusing to accept Elena and the twins. She saw them as blemishes on a meticulously curated life, obstacles that threatened alliances she had carefully arranged for Adrian. Then came Dominic Moretti. A rival businessman and old adversary, Dominic had always underestimated Adrian, until now. The twins were visible, vulnerable, and for someone like Dominic, that was an invitation. Adrian's life of control and fear now had cracks his enemies could exploit. It happened on a crisp autumn afternoon in Central Park. Adrian had let his guard down, allowing Liam and Lucy a few moments of freedom in the playground. He was a few feet away, phone in hand, when a shadow fell over the children. Two men, clearly hired muscle, tried to grab Lucy, pulling her toward the edge of the part. Adrian reacted in an instant. Years of instinct, training, and ruthlessness took over. He intercepted, moving with a fluid precision that left the men stumbling, confused by the sudden aggression. Elena screamed, lunging forward, but Adrian's hand gripped her arm firmly, keeping her back. "Stay," he barked, eyes blazing. The men fled, knowing they were outmatched, but Adrian's anger was barely contained. Dominic had sent a warning, and Adrian's world, the fragile semblance of normalcy he'd built for his family, was under attack. That evening, he summoned Dominic. No threats, no shouting, just a calm, calculated conversation that chilled even the most seasoned enforcer. Adrian detailed every legal pressure, every financial choke point, every insider tip to the authorities that would dismantle Dominic's empire. By the time he finished, Dominic understood. Adrian Cole was no longer just a businessman. He was a father, and his children were untouchable. Elena watched silently, a mix of fear and awe gripping her. She had seen Adrian's power before, the cold, unstoppable force that could destroy lives with a word. But tonight, it was tempered by something entirely new: protection, responsibility, and a quiet fury no one could ignore. Days later, whispers of Dominic's empire collapsing began to circulate in the city's underworld. Businesses shut down, assets frozen, and loyalists abandoned their leader. Adrian had executed his strategy without firing a single gun, yet the message was clear: no one would threaten his family without consequence. Meanwhile, Victoria remained silent, observing from a distance. She saw her son shift subtly, almost imperceptibly. Elena's presence had softened him, but not weakened him. And when Liam drew her a picture of their small family, and Lucy ran to hug her grandmother for the first time, even Victoria's icy heart cracked just a fraction. The penthouse, once a fortress of luxury and solitude, now felt like home. Chaos still lurked outside its walls, but inside there was laughter, trust, and cautious hope. Adrian and Elena were learning the delicate balance of love and responsibility, of fear and protection. Yet, even as they embraced the fragile peace, Adrian knew the world he had built was not forgiving, Every enemy, every threat was a reminder that his family's safety was not guaranteed, and he would go to any length to ensure that nothing and no one would ever harm them again. Because some battles are won not with violence alone, but with strategy, sacrifice, and unwavering resolve. And Adrian Cole had all three. When the people you love become targets, power isn't enough. Only determination and sacrifice can keep them safe. The city skyline glimmered under the soft glow of twilight, and for the first time in years, Adrian Cole allowed himself to breathe without the weight of fear pressing on his chest. The chaos of rivalries, threats, and betrayals had faded. Dominic Moretti was gone, his empire crushed, and Adrian's own empire was shifting, slowly, deliberately, toward legitimate businesses. He wanted a world where his children could grow safely, without shadows looming over every decision. Elena stood beside him on the balcony, Liam and Lucy playing quietly at their feet. The twins' laughter was now a soundtrack to a life Adrian had once thought impossible. He watched her, seeing not just the woman who had survived everything, but the mother who had fought with relentless courage to protect their children. "Do you ever think about it?" Elena asked softly. "All the chaos we've survived and how far we've come?" Adrian smiled, a rare, unguarded expression that softened the sharp lines of his face. "Every day," he said, "and I realized none of it mattered until we had them, until we had this." He gestured to the children, to the life they were building together. Over the next months, their penthouse became a home in every sense. Adrian shifted his investments toward legal ventures, and under Elena's guidance, he invested in causes that truly mattered. Elena launched a charity for orphans, a mission close to her heart. Each child they helped reminded her of the life she had fought so hard to protect, and Adrian quietly supported every decision, proud and humbled by her strength. Even Victoria, Adrian's mother, softened in ways none of them expected. It started with Christmas, the first one she spent with the children. Emma, Liam, and Lucy had drawn pictures for her, their tiny hands leaving vibrant marks on paper. She held them carefully, one hand over her heart, tears glistening. I was wrong," she whispered, voice breaking. "I see now. They are your world. And yours, Elena." Adrian watched the moment quietly, heart swelling. The woman who had once seemed untouchable in her icy authority had finally embraced them. Forgiveness, he realized, could be as powerful as protection. One night, after the children had gone to bed, Adrian led Elena to the balcony where the city lights shimmered like stars below. He held her hands firmly, eyes locking onto hers. "Elena Hayes," he began, his voice uncharacteristically gentle. "I asked you to marry me once out of responsibility. Tonight, I'm asking for something different. I want to marry you because I love you, truly, completely." Elena's eyes widened, tears pooling as a smile broke across her face. "Adrian, I—" "No words," he said, brushing a strand of hair from her face. "Just us, a proper wedding, with family, friends, the life we deserve." 6 months later, surrounded by friends, family, and their children, Adrian and Elena finally married for love. The ceremony was intimate, filled with laughter, vows, and promises that had been forged through pain, sacrifice, and survival. The little ones clapped their hands, hugged their parents, and the city outside felt both vast and small as a backdrop to the story of a family that had endured everything to find each other. Adrian kissed Elena softly, whispering, "We made it, together." And for the first time, he meant it. Life isn't always fair, but love, resilience, and courage can build a family stronger than fear itself. Have you ever had someone or something change your life completely? Share your story below. If this story touched your heart, Drop a heart in the comments and tell us what part moved you the most. Pin. Don't forget to subscribe for more emotional stories that remind us to see the invisible and fight for what truly matters.